Welcome to the Successful Nurse Coach podcast. On this podcast, Laura
and Shelby, both board-certified nurse coaches, show you how to make as much money as you want in private practice as a nurse coach. Hello and welcome to the very first episode of the Successful Nurse Coach podcast. This is Shelby Kurz, and I am here today with my other half, Laura Menard. And we are so excited that you are here. This podcast has been on the vision board for us for, a year, 18 months, maybe since we very first started. It's been out there for a while.
You may have mentioned it.
Yeah, we are just so stoked that it is finally coming to life, that we are doing the thing, and we get to share it with all of you. So thank you for joining us. And Laura, I want to hand the mic over to you pretty quickly here so that you can start telling our community why we wanted to do this podcast. Why is it so important to us? Why does it get us excited? Yeah, you want to kick us off?
Sure. Well, the first thing that we decided is it was something we wanted to do. And so when we decide there's something we want to do, we do it. We do what we want. That's why we love to be in private practice. If we have an idea and it lights us up, and especially when it lights both of us up, we start taking action steps to make sure it's a reality. So first, you are listening to this because Shelby and I both wanted to create it. And second, we really want nurse coaches to have good information. And how do you distinguish between good business information and bad business information? And this is the distinction that I want to draw. We are holistic business coaches. We have a method for you to use, but it has holistic aspects to it, because how one nurse coach builds her business is totally different than how another nurse coach builds her business. And we wanted to represent that. We wanted to illustrate how our most successful clients have done this thing, how Shelby has done this thing, how I have done this thing. And we want to illuminate all the differences in every part of the process, because we believe anybody can do this as long as they find the right way for themselves. So we want to make sure you have good information to get this thing started if that's something you want to do. And then the big why is that we need more nurse coaches out here making money. We need more full-time nurse coaches who retire from the bedside for good and can create multiple six-figure incomes or replace their hospital income and have it be sustainable and feel good. We need hundreds, if not thousands, of nurse coaches doing this, because when we get that number, we become really powerful. And that's how we change healthcare. We think nurse coaches are the population to change healthcare.
Freaking men. Yes.
Did I leave anything out?
No, just really like dropping into that bigger vision of nurse coaches changing the world. Like, it lights me up from the top of my head to the bottom of my toes, because if you're listening to this podcast, you're probably submerged in the nurse coaching world somehow. And there is a part of nurse coaching that likely appeals to you. Yes, because we get to like create exactly what we want and make money doing it. But also, we know firsthand how sick the healthcare system is. We know how broken it is. We know how devastated healthcare professionals are right now from extreme burnout and compassion fatigue and moral injury, all those buzzwords. Like, it's never been more real than it is right now. And Laura and I have been nurse coaches pre-pandemic, and I can honestly say that the pandemic itself has accelerated nurses looking for different options. And we are so excited to be a part of the solution for that. We are so excited that whenever a nurse or a nurse coach comes to us and is looking for a way out, we have one. It's a pretty short and simple process, like to get trained and to get certified and to start making money. I mean, it feels really good on our end to be able to help nurses in this way.
And nurse coaching is recession proof. We've seen it firsthand in ourselves. We've seen it in our clients. There's something that happens when the entire world is focused on fear of not being able to handle an illness. And that is that you begin to look at your own comorbidities. You begin to look at your own weak spots. And in my opinion, the pandemic accelerated the entire coaching industry. So for those of you who may have that limiting belief that nobody pays for coaching. We have seen the opposite since the pandemic hit.
Yes. People are looking for alternative ways to heal. And luckily, nurse coaches are super, super awesome at helping other people heal through food and like just simple detox protocols. And like nurse coaches are so smart. There's endless. Like if I can guarantee if someone random came to me on the street and was like, I have this really complex health issue, I would know exactly who to refer them to just because that's how equipped our community is.
Yeah.
So yes to the nurse coaching community. We love you. We are with you. And we are, again, just really excited to bring this resource for everybody. Laura, you mentioned before, like that distinguishing between good and bad information. And I think in the coaching world, it can be very easily confused that you need to be an influencer of some sort in order to be a successful coach. What do you have to say about that?
You don't. You might end up being an influencer after you become a successful coach because it's a natural trajectory of you coming into your own power and having a really powerful message. But we have nurse coaches who have had $10,000 months who don't have any social media. So there are so many ways to connect and to serve. And if you want to find that way, we can help you find that way. And there is a way for you, and it will look different than mine. It'll look different than Shelby's. And I think that a lot of business coaches in the business coaching community can feel predatory and try to sell you on their method. And what I equate that to is it would be like me going to the doctor and the doctor saying, take this regimen of medications, this protocol, and this protocol is going to help you and everybody else, where we know that people are individual with individual epigenetics, individual strengths, individual weaknesses, individual life experiences. And we'd like to take all that into account before we help you co-create a plan for you.
Yeah. And not to completely, well, we're going to probably do a lot of bragging on this podcast. So I invite everybody to get comfortable with celebration. But Laura and I are holistically trained. There's just no other way that we can see it other than taking every piece of you into account. And oftentimes in our coaching containers, it is about business, but also most of the time it's not. It's about your marriage. It's about your relationship with your family, your relationship with money, your work-life balance. All of that gets taken into account in our coaching programs. And I think that that's why we have such high rates of success for the people that play full out with us. Okay. Well, I feel like that was a really solid intro, Laura, and that maybe we could get really off track and down a rabbit hole there. But I do want to tell everybody.
We could.
I do want to tell everybody what they can come to expect from this podcast and share a little bit of our vision with all of you. Just some basics here. We are going to be doing episodes that range in about 20 to 40-minute chunks because everyone is busy and we value your time. But some of them will be with us together. Some of them will be solo. Some of them we're going to bring other previous clients in. We're going to bring other experts in. Again, all about sharing stories, getting you the information that you need in order to start taking action in your business, if that is what you're into. We plan to, share our trade secrets. We are going to share a little bit of our successful nurse coach method with you. We're going to talk about if nurse coaches are actually making money in this industry. We're going to talk about limiting beliefs and money and what else you got, Laura? Like all the stuff.
Oh gosh, sales. Like there is actually a way that you can sell as a nurse and as a healer that lights you up and does not feel icky, and never let that be the reason you don't try. Just because you've had a lot of bad examples given to you, there's some beautiful, authentic, incredible ways to connect and serve that will not feel icky at all. I think that's a huge one. I don't think episode one could go undone without just addressing that one. Because for me personally, I know we'll get into our own stories, but for me, that was huge. I had PTSD from MLM experiences and had ended up with, $5,000 worth of products that I don't need and tears many times. So the thought of having to sell or talk to strangers was really overwhelming for me.
Yeah. We have a way, my friends. We have a way that doesn't feel gross. We're also going to cover like when to quit your job. We have helped many, 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 many nurse coaches quit their job or get really close. When is the right time to hire a coach? We're going to cover the ethics of nurse coaching from our perspective. We're going to tell you ways to make money as a coach or as a nurse coach in particular, ways that we have used and ways that works for our clients. We're basically going to spill the beans here with all of you.
And happily so. We wish that when we graduated, we could have plugged in our ear pods and just soaked in some wisdom, but there hadn't been that many people that had come before us. So while we're still a relatively young clinical specialty and group of people, we are growing exponentially. And so we really wanted to be a solid source of inspiration and information for all of you guys who are contemplating it and who are ready to leap. All right, Shelby, I think the next part we were going to do is we were just going to ask each other a few interview questions, and we don't know what each other's really going to say. So I guess my question for you is, why do you think your perspective is unique?
So my perspective as a nurse coach is unique because I think through a lot of life experience that I've had, especially since opening my practice. So for a very quick backstory, I've moved cross country twice. I've had my first baby. I became the sole income earner of my family. And I had open heart surgery, all since opening my practice a few years ago. And there is this, I don't know if it's a rite of passage or what we can call it, but there is a rite of passage that when you decide to open your own business, your heart, your mind, your soul get blasted wide open. And I have lived a lot of life in the past 3 years since going all in on my practice. So I'm able to support a wide variety of people through a wide variety of things because I have gone there and I have been all in on the work to get myself to the other side. So I think that that's part of what makes my perspective unique and what I can bring to the table. Also, being a nurse who had no business background, period, at all, none. I mean, I dabbled in MLMs just like most of us probably have listening to this podcast, but I can't ever say that I went all in on that business. But I hadn't, that's all the business experience that I had was that very brief stint. Mm-hmm. And I walked the talk. I went all in. I hired a really fancy business coach. I did the thing. I did stuff. I mean, I don't know. Is that a part of it that you just have to sign up for doing uncomfortable things when you start your own business? But I've been fully committed to all of that for a while. And for all of our nurse coaches out there listening who think that they can't start a business because they don't know anything about business, like actually that is a good thing because then we don't have to deprogram from anything. You just get to get your hands on the right information and run with it. And that is an amazing place to start.
Yeah, and you are really good at it too, Shelby. I think that's another thing that makes your perspective unique. You know, when Shelby and I decided to partner, we were peer coaches in our certification program. When we started to have a little bit of traction in our business and our colleagues and people knew about it, they started asking us for help. And Shelby and I were like, we know a little bit and we're making it work. And we just knew we had to help other nurses do it because without guidance, without investing in the fancy business coach, it is really, really painful. It's doable. It's just painful and it takes a long time. And you were just a great example of somebody who invested and not only invested, but you did anything that your coach asked you to do, even if it was uncomfortable, even though you were pregnant and moving and having heart surgery. And
yeah, that's true. And I think that I mean, a lot of people looked at me and they're like, I don't know how you did that. And frankly, same, like I don't know either. It's just one foot in front of the other at the time when you're in crisis mode. But also at the same time, my other option was going back to the ER, and that was not going to happen. It was not going to happen. I would never, by my own choice, go back and work in the hospital. And that is not to shame anybody who is still working on their exit plan or is still working in the hospital. But like for me, it was so, I even like have a physical body response thinking about it right now. Like there was no way. There was no way I was ever going to go back. So hell yeah, I was willing to do anything to make sure that did not happen. Yeah, but thank you, Laura. I appreciate you saying that. All right, Laura. So what makes your perspective unique? What makes you special?
What makes me special? I was a late ass bloomer. That's what I have to say. I have to say that I think that people look at me now in my personal life, my professional life, and unfortunately, some of them have me on a pedestal because of what we've done over the last 3 years, who I've become. And y'all, I was a late bloomer. So I was bankrupt in my 20s. I had many failed relationships, 2 failed engagements. I was a drug addict in my 20s. I became a nurse in my 30s, had 2 children back to back, and got diagnosed with chronic illness. And it wasn't until I sat in my first few weeks of coaching certification that I realized what it was all for. And I decided from that point forward that there was nothing that I couldn't create and nothing that I couldn't be. If I could think it, I could be it. And if I could be it, I could create it. I don't know why that stuck or why that became my truth, but because that's my truth, that's what I see in my clients. And so, when our clients come to us, they have a dream for their practice similar to you and I, Shelby. And when they tell me their vision, that's who I coach to because I know it's possible because I did it. And so when they don't think it's possible, I can hold that possibility and that belief for them. So I feel like what makes me unique is having that 10 on 10 Richter scale shift in myself of being able to create. And it wasn't because my whole life led me up to this. It's because my whole life was a mess for a really long time.
And you know what? So Laura, you briefly mentioned that we were peer partners in our certification. And I think I might have been your first client ever, maybe, or close to it. And
yes, we were each other's. We were each other's first client.
Yeah. And I will never forget this for a lot of reasons. But whenever you're talking about like, I can hold the vision for other people, maybe when they don't have the belief yet in themselves, you did this for me before you even did anything at all with your certification. Like I remember talking to you about quitting my job and you were pep talking me through it, just saying like, they will hire you back if this explodes in your face. If you fail, your job will always be there. And we were kind of getting to the end of our coaching sessions and you even mentioned, okay, Shelby, so like, when are you going to go set it up? When are you going to go set up your business? And I was like, well, what do you mean? She goes, well, we're almost done. Like, what are you doing? And I was like, what am I doing? And so I definitely think that is a strength of yours, is to not bullshit people in their vision, right? Like if you think it's a bad idea, I've seen you tell people that that's a bad idea before, but you can see it for other people. You can tap in to your clients' hopes and dreams and just like speak to the possibility when your client necessarily like can't see it quite yet. So you've done that for me. I've seen you do that for dozens of nurse coaches. And yeah, I'm glad that you brought that up because that is a total superpower of yours.
Oh, thank you. Well, you have the superpower of seeing through any excuse, because when you were rocking your business, facing open heart surgery, rocking your business, moving across the country, single mom, new baby, when people say, I can't do it because I don't have enough time or I don't have enough money, you're just like, yeah, that's not going to work with me.
Yeah. Yeah, not that isn't true, but I promise there is a way. There's a way.
There's a way.
There's a way.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we have time for one more. What other question do we want to answer for each other?
Like when you reflect back on, let's take it from our first coaching call. We had our first coaching call. I remember where I was when we had it, but we had our first coaching call until now. Like when you reflect back on that day until this day, what comes up for you? What are you most proud of, like in what you've seen in yourself?
So on that very first coaching call, I was at a military ball with my husband and we scheduled the first call and I didn't realize that we had plans. that night. So I literally took that call from my phone in the middle of nowhere, New York, dressed in a ball gown for that call. That will forever be burned into my memory as well. But when I think of that moment, I just remember how excited I was. Like I mean, there was a ton of stuff that like we didn't know yet, and that was okay. But I just remember being like, again, lit up. I could feel it all the way into my fingertips. I could like feel it in my legs. I was super excited, and I just knew that we were onto something really, really cool. And I had a lot of anxiety before that call because you and I had never co-hosted anything before. And that's back when you and I used to run calls together. And it went really well. Was there a million ways we could have been better? I'm sure of it, but it went really well. So when I think about that moment, that was like the foundational moment for what we've created together. And every single step of the way has been messy action. I would say probably until like the last 2 months. We've been very committed to messy action of having an idea, bringing it to life. You and I think we complement each other pretty well to where we don't like to sit on things very long, to where we take them into action pretty quickly. But I'm most proud of even when you and I go through low moments that like we don't quit. We are committed to this work for as long as it takes. And even if it takes longer than we think, like we've been talking about this podcast for at least a year, that we still are committed to the long-term goal. We're still committed to being the best business nurse coaches in the game, that we're constantly evaluating how do we get better? How do we serve our community more? How do we bring more value to the table for the people who have invested their time and energy and resources with us? I think that's what I'm most proud of because I can see how it would be easy to get comfortable and we like refuse it. We refuse to call it good enough. So I think that that is probably the thing that I am most proud of.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, I'm proud of that too. I'm totally proud of that. We don't give up. We definitely don't give up, even when it's low. And there's this thing that happens too in a partnership, you guys, if you are ever lucky enough to find a good business partner, where if Shelby's going to have a low moment, it's almost like my body knows it and I flip into gear of don't worry, everything's going to work out. And then when I have my low moments, it's almost like intuitively Shelby knows how to balance it. And we allow ourselves that space to be low or sad or tired or sick or uninspired or defeated.
Yeah. There are
Yeah.
definitely times where that is the reality, 100%. I didn't know that that's how our business would play out. Like at first, I just thought that it would be, oh, Laura can cover me if my kid gets sick or if I'm sick. But it is so much more. It is so much more than that. And yeah, I feel really lucky that we ended up on this journey together.
Totally. It's way better in a pair, which is, again, why we always say you don't have to do it with us. Don't do it alone. Because the entrepreneurial journey alone is not that fun. Lots of tears, lots of uncertainty, and lots of wasted time and wasted thoughts when you don't have somebody who knows you intimately to call you out, to challenge you, to lift you up. And that's what a good coach or a good group coaching space will do for you so that you don't spin. You'll have your low moments. Believe me, you're going to cry your first year, but you won't cry for so long and you won't let yourself get taken on a ride because you've got somebody else that's like, oh, yeah, be sad today. This is normal. Nothing has gone wrong, but we're going to wake up tomorrow and we're going to fail forward. We're going to learn something from it. So don't do it alone. You don't have to do it with Shelby and me. We always say this, but you have to find someone to do it with. I guess it's your turn to ask me one last question and we'll round it out. We'll round episode 1 out.
Yeah. So I have an off the cuff question for you, Laura. I am curious to where if you could rewind and think to the moment that we graduated our certification and kind of like tap into that feeling, what would you tell younger Laura in that moment? What did she need to hear?
Don't wait for my husband's permission to be powerful. because I definitely sought permission for the first 6 to 7 months where his opinion mattered about me more than my own opinion mattered about me. And the truth is that when you're a visionary, which a lot of us are, no one's going to get your vision. No one's going to get it. You have to hold it on, you and your coach can hold it, or you can hold it. But your friends, your family, your coworkers, very well-meaning people, they aren't going to get it. And that's okay. They don't have to get it. They'll get it later on. So that's what I would have told her, because she was looking for validation and looking for someone to give me permission every step of the way. And when I let that go is when I started to fly.
I just want to take a second and let that land for our nurse coaches that need to hear it. Because this is something that we coach through so frequently in our groups, of how your vision was not a conference call with the people in your life. It was just a direct phone call to you. So I am really glad that you put that out there.
Yeah, if we could bottle that one up and sell that, that would be very valuable to all of our new entrepreneurs, our new nurse coaches, because family and friends who are not entrepreneurs, they will very lovingly stifle you if you let them, with their own fears about you and changing. But my husband, who will eventually be on this podcast, will tell you that he's so freaking grateful that I didn't listen to him, or that I was able to tell him what I needed, that I needed support without any timeline. You know, there was a timeline that we agreed upon, that I was going to quit my job. I had to have replace my income in 6 months, which is not impossible, but very difficult to do without a coach. And when that guideline was coming and I hadn't done that yet, we had to have a talk, and I had to tell him how I felt. And he finally said, if this is what you want to do, I believe in you, and we will do whatever we have to do as long as it takes until it works. And as soon as I had that behind me, or I realized that I just had to be explicit with him and tell him what I needed, and I hired a coach, it became exponentially easier to move forward. And I want that for all of our new nurse coaches, because it's painful to hang out in the waiting for permission stage. We won't let you do it here at the Successful Nurse Coaches.
We at least won't let you hang out by yourself. We'll be in the trenches with you.
No.
Yeah, I'm really excited for both Evan and Rob to make their debut on this podcast. And Rob, if you are listening to this, surprise, babe, you're going to be on the podcast. So, oh, well, we are, again, so excited, so ready, so just, we're all in here with all of you. If you would like to see more from us, we hang out in a free Facebook group called The Successful Nurse Coaches. Come over there, hang out with us. We have a really beautiful community. If you are looking to get plugged into nurse coaching in general, or going all in on your private practice, that is a place to get your questions answered. And we would love, love, love to have you in our space.
Yes. So for all of you out there listening to this one first, we hope that you keep on listening, because we have some really, really fun episodes and exciting people to interview and bring on into the space. And hopefully you'll find yourself in either our story or one of their stories, and it makes it real for what is possible for you.
We'll catch you on the next one, team. Bye.
See you later. Bye.